Dozens of Roma brides-to-be and their contenders gathered at the annual Bride Fair, hosted in Bulgaria's second-largest city of Plovdiv.
In a diverse world filled with various cultures, traditions, and peoples, embark on a journey that seeks to peel back the layers of myth and misconception surrounding Bulgaria, a mysterious land in Eastern Europe steeped in ancient civilizations and a wealth of history. But amidst the beauty, questions arise. Are the markets of Bulgaria truly hubs for the exploitation of human beings?
I have a 13-year-old girl right here who's desperately trying to get back to her 52-year-old lover boy.
Join us as we delve into the quest for truth, uncovering the reality behind the sensational claims about Bulgaria, a country where the alleged sale of girls on markets is said to occur. Number 1. The shocking nomadic culture. Throughout the sequence, many histories, a lot of different groups of people have lived together on Earth, creating different communities in the areas they occupy. Every society has its own unique cultures, traditions, and ways of life that make them special and exceptional. One such community is the Romani, and also known as Gypsies. They have been in existence for so many years, leading a lot of different lives in various countries. About 2 million Romani people live in Turkey, with most of them resides in the Balkans. The origins of the Romani can also be traced back to northern India. Initially, these people were Indian descent. However, they prefer not to be called nomad, most especially in the UK, as they considered the term as an insult to them. Instead, they prefer to be referred as Romani instead. Historically, the Kalegi, whose name translates to tinsmiths, were celebrated for their craftsmanship, especially in copperwork. Their nomadic lifestyle, centered on their trade, created a community deeply intertwined yet distinct from the settled populations around them. The downfall of communism in Bulgaria and subsequent industrial changes greatly affected their traditional livelihood, compelling many to adjust to new economic circumstances. The Romani people strongly dislike being called travelers. However, these individuals mostly traveled in groups from many regions like India, Afghanistan, and Pakistan for around 420 AD, heading westward. Today, countries such as England, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey are mainly where you all find them. It is estimated that there are around 10 million Romani people worldwide. There are so many different concepts about why the Romani left their homeland in India and moved eastward. Some people suggest that they were captured by rulers in the West and were used as slaves in the 4th century AD. They were later transported to Western regions. Many believed they were hired as soldiers and later settled among Western societies. The most interesting thing about the Romani is that, regardless of where they settle, they maintain similar lifestyles and cultures, as one of them is that they have a penchant for fortune-telling, a tradition they carry on irrespective of their location. Naturally, the Romani people are involved in music and livestock farming. Both men and women share a deep love for music and dance. They also find joy in expressing themselves through movement. However, despite their cultural richness, Romani communities often face downgrading worldwide. They frequently met with disbelief and exclusion from mainstream society, encountering reserved attitudes and social barriers. This sense of isolation branches partly from their own social practices. Romani families tend to keep to themselves, withdrawing their children from school early and residing together in specific neighborhoods. But rather, they often prefer to marry within their own community, further reinforcing their distinct identity. Now, let's turn our attention to Bulgaria, one of the countries where Romani communities reside. Here, the relationship between Bulgarians and Romani is somewhat of distant. The Romani once lives far away from the rest of the population, maintaining their own neighborhoods and social structures. This brings us to the main point of our discussion, the bride markets in Bulgaria. These markets, which will be the main focus of this video, shed light on the complex dynamics between Bulgarians and the Romani community. Number 2. Inside Bulgaria's Romani Refuge, a tale of struggle and resilience. Bulgaria, the largest gypsy neighborhood in Sofia. While many Romani individuals are friendly and kind-hearted, the neighborhood often carries a negative reputation because some members of the community build houses without permission on land they claim, which can lead them to tensions with Bulgarians. Due to this reputation, there's a mutual dislike between Bulgarians and the Romani in the area. According to a local guide from Bulgaria, the Romani people in the country are generally not motivated to work, and they mostly avoid paying for utilities like water and electricity. This kind of attitude can further contribute to the tense relationship between the two communities. The Romani communities in Bulgaria often seek out vacant land, which they then transform into their own neighborhoods, tailored to their preferences. This creates a clear divide between them and the rest of society. However, Bulgarians are less troubled by this separation than they are by the Romani's apparent disregard for legalities. Bulgarians express concerns about the Romani living without paying bills, such as for electricity and water, and using resources without permission. This seeming exploitation of the country's resources leads Bulgarians to feel that they bear the financial burden through their taxes. Consequently, Bulgarians exhibit a chilly attitude toward the Romani, largely due to their unregulated lifestyle. In the past, there was a lack of respect for rules among the Romani community in Bulgaria. Years ago, there were more Romani people in Bulgaria. However, when Bulgaria joined the United Nations and opened its borders, thousands of Romani people migrated to various European countries through Bulgaria. As a result, the Romani population in Bulgaria has decreased somewhat in recent years. Nowadays, Romani individuals in Bulgaria have Bulgarian identification cards and all the rights, including the right to vote. Unfortunately, there have been instances where some Romani individuals have used their votes to manipulate elections by buying votes. It's important to note that gypsy is a Bulgarian word for Romani, but they prefer to be called Romi. They have roots in India and bring traditions from their homeland, with some being talented musicians. Currently, Romani communities in Bulgaria often reside in shanty towns, especially in the underdeveloped rural areas of cities. These areas are neglected by the state, with minimal investment. So many roads have been spoilt, houses are peeling paint, and green spaces are scarce. Despite these challenges, the Romani people maintain their vibrant culture and traditions. The Romani communities in Bulgaria face challenging living conditions due to neglect. Their homes and possessions often reflect this hardship, with a noticeable lack of upliftment. Their quality of life is below average, resembling rural living conditions found in villages. Instead of living in apartment-style buildings, their houses are typically independent structures equipped with gardens, often around 30 or 40 years old. Number 3. The fascinating tradition of Romani Bulgaria. In response to their difficult circumstances, the Romani in Bulgaria has a unique tradition that they observe yearly. This tradition holds significant importance for them, as they believe it can bring salvation and opportunity to their lives. This is particularly crucial in Bulgaria, where unemployment rates are high. An important portion of the population enjoys middle-class lifestyles. However, the Romani communities, facing much lower standards of living, have found a way to create opportunities, especially through their daughters. In the past, in Anatolian culture, when a man and a woman wished to marry, the man's family would traditionally pay a dowry to the woman's father. This practice is meaningful scenes often described in old Turkish movies. Essentially, the dowry served as a gift from the groom's family to the bride's family, known as a trousseau. In the past, it was common for girls to be taken from their families in exchange for a dowry. However, this perception has evolved over time in many countries, and the concept of a dowry has faded away. Nowadays, even in less developed countries, money is not directly given to girls in exchange for marriage. But in Bulgaria, the Romani community still follows this tradition. But it's not the typical dowry situation. Usually, when a man paid a dowry, There was a pre-existing relationship between the girl and the boy, and they were in love. However, in Bulgaria, this practice has become purely transactional. Romani families in Bulgaria often withdraw their daughters from school after primary education to prepare them for marriage. This highlights the commercial aspect of the practice, where the focus is less on love and more on the financial exchange. What's happening here is almost like selling girls, and, surprisingly, they do it right out in the open, in public markets. Amazingly, the Bulgarian government doesn't take any action against it. These markets, which are organized at specific times of the year, attract people from all over Bulgaria. Here, families give away their daughters to strangers in exchange for money. For many of us, this might seem incredibly outdated and primitive. However, this tradition still thrives for the Kicha clan in Bulgaria, and the locals see it as an integral part of their culture. Number 4. Inside Bulgaria's Romani Bride Market. On the day the bride market opens, there is an intense excitement in Romani households. The daughters are getting ready, trying to look as fashionable and attractive as possible. The Romani families start preparing for this day a whole year in advance, spending on expensive clothes and shoes in order to make their daughters stand out. Once everything is ready, they take their daughters to the market to get everything she needs, her dress, all prepared. But the most crucial thing is finding the right groom for the wedding. The price depends on the guy who's trying to buy her. If the girl likes the boy, they might lower the price, maybe even by 10 or 20,000. Interestingly, there's no forced marriage situation here in Bulgaria. Romani girls come to the market happily, seemingly content with the arrangement.
This is the biggest annual celebration of the Roma clan, the Kaliji, and here the young Kaliji girls are sold by their families.
Maybe because they don't actively participate in society, so they fear they might never get married and see these markets as a lifetime chance for their future. On the other side, the price of a girl at the market varies based on her age and beauty. The girl's father determines these prices and sells her according to his wishes. For instance, an 18-year-old girl fetches a higher price than a 25-year-old. If families receive high offers for their daughters, they take pride in it and boast about it, even mentioning their worth in terms of money. In Bulgaria, Romani families go to the market together to give away their daughters. However, if the mother doesn't approve of the groom and the daughter isn't interested, they may hesitate to give her away. According to the guide, the average cost for a groom varies between 20,000 and 50,000 lev. For a Romani family in Bulgaria, 50,000 lev can be a substantial amount, considering Bulgaria's low income compared to other European countries. In this country, like Bulgaria, the dollar holds significant value. Money is an essential aspect of life for people here, including the Roma community. They often head to places like Adada for shopping, where prices are lower. For instance, in Turkey, the current equivalent of 50,000 Bulgarian lev is over $27,000. Given the considerable impact of this money on purchasing power in Bulgaria, it's seen as a sufficient amount for a dowry. Moreover, certain unique factors in Bulgaria, such as the rarity of the blue eye color gene compared to the rest of Europe, contribute to the increase in dowry prices. While the idea of buying people with money is offensive, what's even more unusual is that both the bride's and groom's families often meet for the first time at the market. It's quite strange to think that two people who have never met or seen each other will start getting to know each other after getting married. For example, Romani families in Bulgaria discourage their daughters from socializing and making friends. They believe that flirtations and romantic relationships can harm family culture and lead to gossip within the Romani community. This perspective adds another layer of complexity to the dynamics surrounding marriage traditions in Bulgaria. Afterward, families often face negative stereotypes and biases. To avoid any rumors spreading during their school years, Romani girls are often kept from progressing beyond elementary school. Regardless of gender, Romani children are typically married off at the young ages of 13 or 14. They are taken to these markets where marriages are arranged. This means that Romani individuals often marry at a very young age, which limits their participation in social life. For them, marrying off their daughters at bride markets holds more significance. However, it's important to note that not all Romani people in Bulgaria or around the world follow these exact customs. Number 5. The Bulgaria's unique bride market tradition. The Romani who continue these bride markets are known as the Chicha Romani. At these markets, you can see the groom's side arriving in older model vehicles like Mercedes, aiming to present an image of wealth. Both the bride's and groom's families make efforts to appear prosperous at these gatherings. People at these markets strive to adorn themselves with as many valuable items as possible. Additionally, various regional dances are performed, fostering social interactions among attendees. Think of it as a unique festival for the Romani community in Bulgaria. Interestingly, not all Romani individuals attending these markets are interested in getting married. Some simply come for the enjoyment. The atmosphere is generally filled with smiling faces, and matches are sometimes made instantly. The significant interest in these bride markets is evident from the bustling crowd. For those curious about the location, these markets are held in Stara Zagora, a prominent city in Bulgaria. Stara Zagora boasts a population of around 150,000, with an estimated around 20,000 being Romani. Consequently, Romani culture thrives in this urban setting. It's worth nothing that this bride market is the only one of its kind in Europe, and given Bulgaria's status as a European country, it holds the potential to make a substantial impact. In other European countries as well, many people from all over Europe visit Stara Zagora each year to witness the bride markets and contribute to the city's economy. However, one thing remains crucial for both sides involved: the bride's family and the groom's family. For the bride's side, it's essential that the groom is as wealthy as possible. Conversely, for the groom, the priority is to find a young and beautiful bride. Surprisingly, the criteria for marriage chosen by two individuals who have never met each other are solely based on external appearance and wealth. This type of marriage can be termed as mutually beneficial, but what's unique among the Romani is their ability to quickly establish connections, even if they are from different tribes. After an agreement is reached at the marriage market, a celebration is held at the girl's house, which is also attended by the groom as well. These celebrations are filled with dances and music, which are beloved traditions of the Romani community. This celebration marks the fulfillment of the tradition, and the next stage involves the actual marriage ceremony. In this manner, the Romani creates homes for themselves. While they may not be generally favored in the countries they reside in, because they are usually viewed as individuals who don't work or pursue education, but they rather continue in preserving their culture without blending into the mainstream, and they so much cherish their traditions, preferring to live each day for the joy of it rather than striving to amass wealth. Ultimately, they find happiness within themselves, and they are content with the way they live their life. Number 6. Tradition meets business in the Kalaidzi community. Where the exchange of brides occurs, economic factors mingle with cultural traditions. The Kalaidzi community stands out culturally due to their steadfast commitment to certain customs. These include upholding virginity until marriage and engaging in arranged marriages facilitated by the bride market. Their language, a variant of Romani, and their distinctive customs, such as attire and social norms, set them apart from both other Roma groups and the wider Bulgarian society. This uniqueness is a source of pride for the Kalaidzi, but also brings challenges as they strive to maintain their identity amidst societal changes. The bride market holds a profound significance for the Kalaidzi Roma, serving as a focal point for their historical journey, socio-economic adaptations, and cultural values. It has evolved over time, reflecting shifts within the community and society at large, yet remains deeply entrenched in Kalaidzi life. The preparation of young Kalaidzi women for the bride market is a complicated process deeply rooted in community traditions and values. It goes beyond mere grooming, encompassing an education in cultural norms, skills, and expectations to ensure readiness for marriage, and it is an associated responsibilities. In the Kaladzi community, great importance is placed on the virginity and purity of a bride. This is not just a physical condition, but a representation of family honor and moral integrity. Their girls are taught from a young age about the significance of preserving their virginity, which is vital not only for their marriage prospects, but also for their family's standing and the financial aspects of marriage. This emphasis on purity is entrenched in the fabric of Kaladzi society and is a fundamental requirement for participation in the bride market. The education of Kaladzi girls blends traditional knowledge with modern realities. While formal schooling may not be provided, there is a strong emphasis on acquiring domestic skills essential for future roles as wives and mothers. Additionally, girls are instructed in Kaladzi customs and traditions to ensure their continuity across generations. As the bride market approaches, considerable attention is devoted to the physical appearance of young women, who must dress modestly yet elegantly in traditional attire that reflects their cultural heritage. Preparation for the bride market also involves coaching in social politeness and negotiation skills specific to the occasion. Girls learn how to interact with potential suitors and their families in a respectful and appealing manner. Moreover, they undergo emotional and psychological conditioning to prepare for the realities of marriage and the transition from their parental home. This aspect often entails guidance from elder women in the family who share their wisdom and experiences. The bride market typically occurs annually, often in the spring, in open fields or public spaces, conducive to large gatherings. These venues become vibrant with music, conversation, and negotiations, creating a festive yet serious atmosphere. The event is stood in rituals and customs passed down through their generations, including the public display of young women in traditional attire as a signal of their availability for marriage. Clothing choices during the market signify not only fashion, but also the family's cultural adherence and social status. Furthermore, there are often lively performances of music and dance, showcasing the rich cultural heritage of the Kaladzi. Families eagerly arrive at the market with their daughters, who are decorated out in their finest garments and jewelry. These young women are then presented to potential suitors, not as mere decorations, but as an active participant in the process. They engage in conversations, display their social skills, and sometimes even demonstrate their talents like singing or dancing. This allows both parties to measure compatibility and interest. The interaction between potential suitors and the families of the young women is a crucial aspect of the bride market. It involves a complex dance of social cues, negotiations, and discussions. Suitors express their interest in a particular young woman and initiate conversations with her family. These exchanges are often overseen by older, respected members of the community to ensure adherence to cultural norms and mutual respect. Once a suitor and his family express serious interest, negotiations over the bride price commence. The bride price, a financial agreement between the families, is influenced by various factors, including the perceived beauty, skills, and education of the bride, as well as the economic status of both families. This process can be long and complex, involving multiple discussions and sometimes even bargaining. It's important to understand that the bride price isn't a purchase, but rather a traditional agreement symbolizing the value of the union. Although deeply rooted in tradition, the bride market of the Kaladzi Roma raises significant human rights and ethical concerns. At the heart of the ethical debate lies the issue of consent and autonomy. The bride market entails families negotiating marriages, often with significant influence over the choice of a spouse. This traditional approach raises questions about the extent to which young women have a say in their own futures. While some girls are brought up to embrace this tradition, viewing it as a significant milestone and an integral part of their cultural identity, others may feel restricted by it. It's essential to recognize that the perspectives of young women within the Kaladzi community are diverse and complicated. Number 7. the bridal bargains. Central to this custom lays the idea of virginity, which is highly valued within the Khaliji community. The purity of a young woman isn't just a matter of family pride, but a crucial factor in the marriage market, often determining her worth in this traditional exchange. The process of preparing these young women for marriage is filled with cultural rituals and teachings aimed at preserving their purity and readying them for wedlock. The bride market itself is a vibrant display of color, emotion, and bargaining. Set in open fields or public areas, it resembles a carnival, with families coming together to mingle, rejoice, and form matrimonial bonds. Young women dressed in their best attire are escorted by their families, who negotiate their marriages with interested suitors and their families. This intricate process involves discussions about the bride price, a financial transaction deeply ingrained in tradition, reflecting not only the economic circumstances of the community, but also symbolizing the importance placed on marital unity. However, this tradition isn't without its controversies. In a time where ideas of human rights, individual freedom, and gender equality are gaining ground, the bride market stands at a crossroads. So many has argued that it reduces women to commodities, oversteps upon their right to choose, and maintains gender stereotypes and differences. While these criticisms have merit, they often overlook the cultural context and significance of this practice for the Khaliji people. The Khaliji view the bride market as a vital element of their cultural heritage, a means of preserving their traditions, change social organization, and upholding their distinct identity within Bulgarian society. For many young individuals, the bride market remains the preferred avenue to find a partner who shares their values, traditions, and way of life. The Khaliji Roma, a subset of the broader Roma community in Bulgaria, has a unique identity molded by centuries of tradition, migration, and adaptation. Understanding their bride market requires a deep dive into their historical background, socioeconomic status, cultural identity, and how they differentiate themselves from other Roma groups and the wider Bulgarian populace. Despite these transformations, the Khaliji have endeavored to safeguard their cultural identity, with the bride market remaining one of their most prominent traditions. Socioeconomically, the Khaliji occupy a unique position. Often seen as more prosperous than other Roma groups, they have diversified their economic activities over the years, participating in various trades and enterprises. However, this perceived prosperity doesn't shield them from the challenges confronted by numerous Roma communities across Europe, including discrimination, social marginalization, and poverty. Number 8. The Khaliji women's perspective on marriage and education. To safeguard their daughters from being taken away by potential suitors, Romanese families typically arrange marriages for their daughters between the ages of 16 and 20, often withdrawing them from school by the 8th grade. Romani women have traditionally supported their husbands' skill and crafted dowries for their daughters. They fulfill roles as mothers and wives. Education isn't considered a priority, with 1 in every 5 Bulgarian Roma women being unable to read or write. According to estimates from the World Bank, only 10% of women have completed secondary education. Ms. Dimitrova, who has received more education than most girls in her clan, believes that one should focus on a person's character, manner of speaking, thoughts, emotions, and other qualities rather than their financial status. Her cousin further added that wealth doesn't guarantee a lasting marriage, as a partner could be replaced with a better one shortly after complexities involved. In the documentary Young Brides for Sale by Malene Larson and Alice Stein, it's revealed that the concept of bride markets is more intricate than it appears. The bride market is an ancient tradition deeply rooted in Khaliji identity, which explains its survival. However, nowadays most girls have some degree of choice even though they are influenced by family pressures regarding their marriage partners, stated the Swedish filmmaker, as reported by news.com.au. This doesn't justify the troubling notion that women are commodities to be sold, bid on, and purchased. and how this shapes the lives of these girls from the outset. They are raised not to explore their identities and aspirations, but rather to obey and serve their future husbands, she added. The documentary provides an intimate look at the financial hardships faced by a traditional coppersmithing family. A couple invested a significant portion of their earnings to attire their young daughters for this significant occasion. If a girl is not a virgin when she's offered for marriage, they will label us as promiscuous, shameful, and dishonorable women. Romani women are expected to be virgins at their first marriage. This is crucial because significant sums are paid for virginity, stated the women of the family. Considering the possibility that parents might choose to marry off their daughter to a wealthy man rather than a poorer one, even if the daughter is in love with the latter, the young girls recognize the intimidating nature of the market. There are instances where a boy and a girl love each other, but if the boy's parents are affluent and the girl has dark eyes, they might not accept her as their daughter-in-law. They would prefer someone more attractive. What do you find most interesting in Bulgaria, the country where they sell girls on a market? Let know your thought and opinion in the comment section.